Welcome to Senior Living Visionaries, a podcast for senior living leaders who are looking to stay ahead of the curve in the industry. On this show, we feature leaders and innovators in senior living who are pushing the boundaries and creating new, effective services and solutions. And now, let's settle in as host Jennifer Drago connects us with today's guests.
Hi, and welcome to Senior Living Visionaries, where we showcase the leaders and innovators who are shaping the future of senior living. We also discuss governance best practices and how to build brilliant boards. I'm your host, Jennifer Drago, Strategy and Governance Consultant. I'm the CEO of Peak to Profit. Today we're going to conclude our series on board orientations, and we're going to talk about a topic that is not very common or sexy: board reorientations. So how do we reorient our existing board members on an annual basis to their roles, responsibilities, and some of the key things that are important for providing strategic direction and assuring that competitive advantage going forward? We're going to talk all about that today. Before I do, I want to mention a free resource that I'm making available to you today. I'll mention it at the end as well. I have a checklist for nonprofit board orientations that I'm making available to you for free. It's a quick checklist just to make sure that both your new board member orientation and your annual reorientation are chock full of information that is helpful to set a foundation for your board members for the year ahead. And we'll make that available through a link in the show notes, absolutely free. Please take advantage of it. So we're diving into a topic that can truly elevate your nonprofit's governance game. And I kind of think this is a bit of a secret weapon, if you will, to keep your board engaged, aligned, and ready to lead. And that's an annual board reorientation. So taking a little bit of time at the beginning of each fiscal year to remind board members of their roles, responsibilities, and key policies that they need to keep in mind for their effective board leadership. Why do we do this? Well, we want our board members to be aligned. We want their commitments to be on point, so sometimes we need to just refresh those, and we want to prepare to have a successful year. A well-prepared board is an effective board, as we know, but it's more than rereading documents that we've read before. It's about re-energizing our commitment to the mission of the organization. If we don't do this, we may have some disengaged board members. Definitely the opportunity exists for misaligned priorities, and we need to check ourselves on that, as well as governance gaps. So we're not doing our best job in providing the strategic direction or providing oversight of the organization if we don't remind ourselves every now and again what it is we're supposed to do as board members. So what does an annual reorientation look like? Well, we're going to keep it pretty simple. I think it's just a 30 to 60 minute discussion at a board meeting or prior to a board meeting or over a lunch to remind board members of their roles and responsibilities, as well as get them to sign off on some key documents that they should be doing each year. Some of the topics to discuss, and these are all things, again, they've heard before, so you can cover them probably pretty quickly, but they're important. So first is, of course, you want to reorient them to the mission, vision, and strategic priorities of the organization, especially for the year ahead. We can share progress on our strategic goals from the prior year and discuss our priorities for the years ahead. That's a great way to prepare them at the beginning of the year. Also key is reminding board members of their roles and responsibilities. So remember, there are 3 legal duties that a board member has: the duty of care, duty of loyalty, duty of obedience, and always a great time to remind nonprofit board members of those duties, as well as their key responsibilities. Why do we have a board in a nonprofit? They're responsible for providing strategic direction for the organization, for providing oversight, legal, ethical, financial oversight, and oversight of the CEO, and assuring that the organization has the necessary resources to fulfill its mission. As part of that discussion, we revisit their individual expectations, including attendance, committee participation, fundraising, advocacy, a code of conduct. We remind the board members of why they do what they do, and how they should do it. We remind them also of their legal and ethical responsibilities, and we talk specifically about our governance policies, including conflict of interest and whistleblower protections. We review the organization's overall code of conduct and expectations for ethical behavior if those exist. We review confidentiality agreements. We might also, at the beginning of the year, review the organization's budget and key financial metrics and where we hope those are moving in the new year, and revisit the board's role in financial stewardship, including fundraising goals. So in their financial oversight, how they're expected to review the financials, ask questions, and also what part they play, if any, in the organization's fundraising strategy and plan. We'll want to update the board on any leadership changes or major operational developments. And then this is also a great time to review the board effectiveness. So one of the great things that boards do is assess their performance each year. How did we do as a board? How effective are our board meetings, our board discussions? Are any dynamics in our board preventing us from having great discussions? So if you do a board survey, this would be a great time to present those results and talk about what you want to be different for the year ahead. Those can all be part of a great board orientation. It doesn't have to take a long time, but there are also some key documents that we want to share and discuss and have re-signed each year at the beginning of the year. And those are our conflict of interest policy. So we should have a disclosure form that is signed at the beginning of each year by board members and key staff to assure that there aren't any new conflict of interests that we need to be aware of going into the new year. We would also want to have the boards re-sign a confidentiality agreement. So they're going to be privy to some information and maybe even some client information that they need to know, how to handle that and be reminded of that. If you have a whistleblower policy, this is also a great time to remind them of the components of that and how they could make a disclosure or a report if they felt that they needed to. And then board code of conduct, so board member codes of conduct or expectations or responsibility statements, pledges, commitments, whatever you call that, but anything about their behavior and their roles and responsibilities that you want to reinforce that you have board members sign, they should do that on an annual basis as well. So those are all great things to do during a reorientation. And then you might also want to highlight a few key documents that are probably available in your board handbook or board manual, such as your bylaws. I work with a lot of boards on revising their bylaws, and it's interesting when I interview board members how little they remember about the bylaws and their terms and how they work and all the different things that are that are included in your bylaws that govern how the board is supposed to work. Your board should be intimately familiar with those terms, and sometimes they are not. So always good to review your bylaws, your committee charters, board structure, things like that. So again, why is this important? Well, we want to maintain our focus and engagement of our board members. We want to have accountable board members, and so sometimes we just have to remind people of what their roles and responsibilities are, what their duties are. It's part of our continuous learning process. We're educating ourselves all the time as a member of the new nonprofit board, and it absolutely strengthens our team cohesion. So it sets the stage and the foundation for us to just have a successful year because we're engaged from the get-go and everybody's on the same page. Don't forget those reminders. Kind of a funny thing to say, but we really need to provide these reminders to our existing board members as well. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that there's a reorientation process for all of our board members on an annual basis? It's really the governance committee's responsibility. Of course, the CEO or the executive director can help with that process and as well as any executive assistant that can support that process. It's more than just a refresher. It's an opportunity to recommit to the organization's mission and ensure that the board operates at its highest potential. It's a moment to reset, refocus, and recommit to the mission that brought us all to the table. And just one parting comment, the most effective boards are those that start every year with clarity, accountability, and a shared vision for impact. So, wishing you well in the new year ahead. I want to remind you to please grab my free checklist for board orientation so that you don't forget any of the necessary components that you want to make sure that you include in your board orientation. This will also be a great reminder for reorientation of new board members. And I want to thank you for listening today. I'm Jennifer Drago, Strategy and Governance Consultant and CEO of Peak to Profit. You've been listening to Senior Living Visionaries podcast, where we explore the cutting-edge ideas and breakthroughs that are shaping the future of the senior living industry, as well as best practices in governance. Please subscribe to be notified each time a new episode drops at seniorlivingvisionaries.com. I want to thank you for listening today. See you next time.
You've been listening to the Senior Living Visionaries podcast and radio show, where we showcase the leaders and innovators in the industry who are pushing the boundaries and setting the stage for the future in senior living and services. Join us next time as we share the bold ideas and breakthroughs of the industry's most forward-thinking leaders here on Senior Living Visionaries.